There aren't enough Roman strategy games in the world to quench my thirst for antiquity. But today, thanks to Meteorbyte Studios, I'm about to show you Songs of Steel Hispania, a brand new strategy game that lets you play as either the Romans or the Numantians in engaging story-based campaigns, and through highly tactical and history-inspired battles. So make sure to head over to Steam and get the full experience for yourself. But what is Songs of Steel Hispania, and how does it work? Well, Songs of Steel takes place between 153 and 133 BC, and focuses on the Roman Republic's invasion of Numantia in Iberia. Now this is a turn-based strategy game, but what you're going to notice is that unlike the more sandboxy titles out there, Songs of Steel actually delivers a story that follows a band of legionaries and commanders on their campaign. Through beautifully crafted drawings, these stories and characters come to life in a way we haven't really seen in this genre before. But what's more is that you actually get to influence what's going on here. In the Roman campaign, for example, we march under the Roman consul Nobilior, and even though we get to meet other historical characters too, we actually follow the journey of people like Commander Nerva, an up-and-coming soldier whose skill on the field of battle isn't the only thing interesting about him. Because through people like Nerva, and even other characters, we get to make choices that impact not only the story and camaraderie between the legionaries and the morale of the army, but also the moment-to-moment gameplay, as events force you to pick and choose between resources and various other outcomes. This is something that remains no matter whether you play as the invading Romans or as the defending Numantians, who must use their strengths to stand against the coming Roman tide. Songs of Steel Hispania complements its narrative focus with a campaign map that essentially functions as a sort of hub area in between battles. The hand-drawn feel of it all is evident here too, in this dramatic and stylistic take on Hispania, where movement across the map is restricted by your actual progress in pacifying the land. We do have several dynamic hotspots here though, depending on what's going on. The main Roman camp will feature events related to the general staff, while different minor events can be found all over the map depending on what's going on, but all of them will have an impact. I very much appreciate that even though the Roman campaign shows us the war from the Roman perspective, that they're not shown as some benevolent force. Even towards allies who bring units like mighty war elephants, part of the Roman leadership is depicted as arrogant and condescending, and together with the other events of the story, we have a game that shows the nuances and intricacies of Rome's relationship with both her enemies and her allies. Of course, Songs of Steel Hispania would not be the unique strategy title it is without its special approach to tactics. Now you might have played turn-based strategy games before, but what makes Songs of Steel stand out is its inherent historical inspiration, an inspiration that manages to blend history with fun and unique battlefield mechanics. You see, many strategy games tend to focus on sheer power imbalances or more ambiguous stat differences between units to create tactical opportunities. Thing is though, this doesn't always work that well, and you might even forget what makes one unit different from another if they essentially come from the same unit type. This is where Songs of Steel literally changes the game, as its battle system is designed almost like an intricate card game where the units come with unique abilities that truly set them apart. For example, the game features a system of flanking and cover, and these modifiers can and will be altered depending on which units you have and when you use them. This is where the historical part comes in. You see, the Roman army made use of velites, javelin-carrying infantry, to harass the enemy troops before their heavier soldiers moved in to attack. Since this is how the Roman army worked, Songs of Steel simulates this historical battle tactic by giving velites a modifier that lays out that after they have attacked a unit, that unit will be extra vulnerable to flanking attacks by enemy troops. In other words, this encourages the player to make use of velites early on in the battle and for every turn, since this makes the enemy all the more vulnerable to every single flanking attack by your other unit types for the duration of the turn. In the same vein, Principes, a more elite heavy type of infantry, offers the second wave trait, a modifier that gives them a boost to attack power if they attack a unit that's already lost at least 25% of their health, symbolizing their role as an infantry division that never was a part of the first wave of the attack. On the other hand, the Triarii unit has the Testudo modifier, which gives them one more cover stat per turn, essentially signifying their ability to stand in position and defend. However, moving them actually forfeits the modifier, meaning that Triarii are best suited to fortify choke points and valuable positions on the battlefield, and to keep them stationary. But attacking and defending isn't the only important thing here, since we also have to think about movement. Most infantry units have something like 3+1 movement points per turn, meaning that they can move 3 tiles and then 1 more if they forfeit an attack command for that turn. This makes fast-moving units like cavalry extremely important, since being able to move over great distances, like 5 tiles plus another 3, can truly change up your game and strike the enemy where they least expect it. There are even more modifiers here though, like cohesion, which determines a unit's ability to absorb damage rather than lose health, morale, which when drops to 0 forces a unit to flee the battle, and things like regular attack damage versus morale damage, and even terrain differences like elevation and whether units are fighting in or from water, which can have major consequences for the outcome of battle, all of which must be considered. We do not begin the game with things like dedicated cavalry units, however, and they must be acquired through other means, like through the story itself or by way of the legionary camp. The legionary camp can be found on the campaign map and allows us to recruit new units in between battles to diversify our armies. This is where Songs of Steel's resource system comes in, because as you might be able to tell, these units cost 2 types of resources, namely supplies and honor, both of which are gained or lost through battles or campaign-related events. Resources are scarce, however, especially the likes of honor, so don't think you can recruit your way to victory on its own. What you can splurge a bit more on, however, are weapons and armor at the market, which leads us to the game's awesome RPG system, because that's essentially what this is. Each unit, whether a special hero type unit or regular soldiers, can gain experience and be leveled up with new abilities, and can even be outfitted with entirely new equipment, providing powerful bonuses to their fighting capabilities. For example, I have outfitted my Equites with the Iberian Steeds modifier, giving them slightly less armor but making them a lot faster than they used to be. At the same time, my level 2 Triar unit has been upgraded with the Esprit de Corps skill, meaning that they take an entire 30% less morale damage, which over the course of a battle makes a massive difference, especially for the Triar unit, which is already supposed to be able to take a beating. For my man Nerva though, I chose to give him the 9 life skill, meaning that he fully recovers his health after every battle. When you put all of these systems together, you get a strategy game that marries highly tactical battles, where the historic use of appropriate units actually matter, with RPG-like systems related to progression and equipment, meaning that you'll grow attached to your units as they gain experience and as you keep on fighting alongside them. What can really toss a curveball into any plan of conquest though is Songs of Steel's final ace up its sleeve, the dynamic story battles and their completion requirements. You see, every battle in this game demands that you complete its objectives, often tied to disposing of a certain number of the enemy's units, or that you make sure to not lose more men than you can afford to lose. This means that if you don't pay attention, battles you might have barely otherwise won can be lost because you fail to remember the objective of your current battle, objectives which are tied to the story, and as such, feel intense and important to follow. And just like you must pay attention to the various abilities and modifiers of this game, so too does the AI make excellent use of its advantages. I have to admit that I've rarely met an AI that's so on the ball when it comes to its use of units where it matters, and you really have to stay on your toes here to make sure the battle goes your way. That being said, because of Songs of Steel's unique gameplay mechanics and battle systems, yet its fairly approachable and simplistic overarching approach to strategy, that this is a game for both new and experienced players. And for someone like me who's very experienced with a ton of different strategy games, this new system actually felt fresh, and I really love this unique take on the genre. This becomes even more true when you remember that the game offers 2 parallel campaigns, one focusing on the Romans and one on the Numantians. And whereas the Romans focus a ton on heavy infantry, the Numantians must make use of its more nimble fighters to carry the day, and I love that they too have an accompanying story that's heartfelt and interesting. In other words, whether we're talking the beautiful artwork of the cutscenes or the overworld, the awesome battle tactics or the upgrade system, or indeed the 2 different campaigns with entirely different playstyles and stories, and that awesome soundtrack, Songs of Steel Hispania is a game anyone with love for the Roman period should give a chance, since this is something quite unlike anything you've seen before. Songs of Steel Hispania is out now, so make sure to head over to Steam and check out the full game for yourself. Let me know what you think of this innovative and fun title set in Hispania, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, thank you so much to Meteor by Studios and Combat Time for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!